Unfortunately, Steelers fans just got a double dose of bad news here on a Monday. So today we're going to be breaking down these two bits of bad news and how they affect the Pittsburgh Steelers offseason here in 2025. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. And only 5 other channels here at Chat Sports have gotten to 76,000 subscribers here on YouTube. We've done a phenomenal job growing this channel over the last 2 to 3 years, and right now we can become one of the 6 channels to get to 76,000 subscribers if we can just get 21 more people out there to click that thumbs up icon. So if you're watching our shows, you love watching our show, you watch our show every single day and you still haven't clicked that subscribe button for whatever reason, what are you waiting for, man? Click that subscribe button. We only need 21 more people to click that button for us to become the 6th channel in Chat Sports history to get to 76,000 subscribers. It's an incredible accomplishment. So help us get there today by clicking that subscribe button right now. So the first bit of bad news here is that if you were hoping the Steelers were going to get Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Tee Higgins in free agency this year, well, that dream kind of officially died today as the Bengals are reportedly getting ready to franchise tag Tee Higgins this offseason. And, this is really smart by the Bengals for 2 specific reasons. The first one is that it gives Cincinnati more time to negotiate a new contract long-term with Tee Higgins. All right, like they're going to have a more extended period to try to come to terms on a long-term deal to keep him in Cincinnati. The second reason why it's really smart, guys, is it allows the Bengals to determine his next destination if he's traded, all right? Because it's going to open up the possibility of a trade elsewhere. And then, of course, if they trade him away, they're going to get something in return for him. So not only do they get something in return for him, but they can make sure he doesn't end up with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, or the Baltimore Ravens, and they can probably trade him away to a team in the NFC. So if you're hoping that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to get Tee Higgins, unfortunately, I'm here to report there's close to a 0% chance that Tee Higgins becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler in 2025. So that takes away probably the biggest and most talented option on the open market in the free agency market for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know that there's a lot of Steelers fans in this community that were really excited about the opportunity of getting Tee Higgins. So unfortunately, that is the first bit of bad news today. But let's discuss some of the other options at wide receiver that are at the Steelers' disposal this offseason. And, some of the names that are veterans that I think the Steelers could potentially look at here, Davante Adams could be coming over if you sign like Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. And who knows, maybe he wants to play with Justin Fields. Who knows? He's going to be a free agent this year, most likely. They got Chris Godwin, who I think is probably the best true free agent wide receiver on the market this year. Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel have certainly been involved in Steelers rumors as of late. The Steelers really like Cooper Kupp, by the way. Christian Kirk was involved in some trade rumors with the Pittsburgh Steelers before he got injured last year. DeAndre Hopkins is somebody that I think could potentially fit well with what the Steelers want to do. Stephon Diggs and Amari Cooper are also former number 1 receivers that will be on the market this offseason. And, I think that these veteran options, if I'm being honest with you, there's not a whole lot of them that I trust to be the true number 1 wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And unless it's like Davante Adams, I think that, if you're somebody that wants George Pickens back on this football team as the number 1 wide receiver, I really do think that George Pickens will be back in 2025. And even if you get Davante, I think that he could be an excellent mentor for George. So personally, right now, I'm more in the camp of keeping George Pickens on this roster, but I also think that they're going to really look at this wide receiver draft class to pick up potentially a future number 1 wide receiver for the long term. If Luther Burden III out of Missouri or Matthew Golden get to you at number 21 this year, I think you run that card up to the table as long as Ashton Genty is off the board. But there's still a lot of really good options on day 2 as well. You could get Ibuka on day 1 if you really like him. Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State reminds me a little bit of Tee Higgins in terms of the size and route running combination that Higgins brings to the table. Elike Amainer out of Stanford brings a lot of great size with route running that I really like. Jack Besh reminds a lot of people of Puka Nacua and can be an excellent fit in Arthur Smith's offense. And they've got a bunch of different options at their disposal on day 2 that you guys can see on your screen right now. And, I think that when it comes to the Steelers and the wide receiver position this year, it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle this position. Do they keep George Pickens or do they trade him? Do they bring in Davante Adams? What free agent wide receiver do they bring in? And then how early of a draft pick do they spend on the wide receiver position? All these questions are going to be answered throughout the offseason, but the one thing we pretty much know for sure at this point is that it won't be Tee Higgins. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which wide receiver would you like the Steelers to acquire this offseason? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our awesome sponsor at Public Rec. While I'm talking about Public Rec, go down there in the comment section, find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section, and let me know which receiver you want the Steelers to add this offseason. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Public Rec. And you know what, guys? Let's be real for a minute. Nobody's got time for stiff, uncomfortable clothes anymore. It's February, it's cold, especially if you're out there in Pittsburgh, PA right now, and you deserve to be comfortable in whatever you're wearing, no matter what you're doing. That's where Public Rec comes in, guys. These pants are an absolute game changer. Their pants are designed to be as comfy as your favorite sweats, but way more stylish. We're talking super soft fabric, no stiff seams, and enough stretch to keep up with whatever your day throws at you. Public Rec isn't just about pants. They have so many great style options, whether you're working all day in the office like we are here at Chat Sports, running errands, or just grabbing a drink with the guys. And I'll tell you guys this right now. Once you put them on, you're going to wonder why you ever got another pair of pants other than Public Rec. It's that good, guys. Trust me. So this February, stop settling for the same old stuff, especially in the pants department. Step up your comfort game with Public Rec today. For a limited time only, our listeners can get up to 20% off your entire order with code CHAT20 at publicrec.com. That's 20% off your entire order when you use promo code CHAT20 at publicrec.com. I love wearing their t-shirts, guys, as well. It's more than just pants. I love how stretchy their fabric is and how breathable it is during the summer, but also how premium the quality of the materials are during the winter to keep you warm. And then when it comes to the pants, the game-changing feature with Public Rec is their customized sizing option, so I can get the perfect fit. You guys know I'm tall and skinny. With Public Rec, that's not an issue. I can get the perfect style of pants that look great on my body every single time, and it's absolutely fantastic. I could not recommend this company more. So this February, treat yourself right, because comfort is always in season. Upgrade to Public Rec and feel the difference today. For a limited time only, you guys can get 20% off at Public Rec by using code CHAT20. That's one word, all caps, CHAT20 at checkout. Just head on over to publicrec.com, use code CHAT20, and you're all set. Oh, and when they ask you how you found them, be sure to mention our show, Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. It really helps us out. Find your perfect fit and never compromise on comfort again. Public Rec, where comfort rules. So the second bit of bad news for Steelers fans here is that a new kind of set of odds to be the next Steelers starting quarterback in 2025 has been released, and Kirk Cousins was at the top of the list with plus 500 odds, which is about like a 16.5-17% chance of being the next starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Followed right behind Cousins is Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields at plus 550. Sam Darnold is right behind those guys at plus 600, followed by Jalen Milroe at plus 800. Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, none of those guys made this list from bookies.com. And there's a lot of Steelers fans that are kind of freaking out about this list, and for good reason. This would be an absolute disaster for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they bring in Kirk Cousins, noodle-arm Cousins at this point in his career, who can't throw even in Atlanta's Dome Stadium anymore, let alone coming to the AFC North where it's windy, where it's cold, it's rainy. And, I think that my biggest concern with Kirk Cousins is that his arm strength has completely fallen off a cliff this past year. He tried fitting balls into windows last year with Atlanta that he was trying to cash checks that his arm just could not cash. And, I really, really worry, especially late in the season, if he comes to Pittsburgh, that we're going to be seeing a quarterback that's not functional whatsoever in these weather type of football games. So for me, I just don't trust him playing in this division for this team, and I think it's a complete non-starter to bring in Kirk Cousins, who in my opinion is completely washed at this point in his NFL career. And honestly, I just don't think that this is a good idea whatsoever for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But what scares me here, guys, and the reason why he is relatively high on the odds makers list right now, is that he is technically a scheme fit for what Arthur Smith wants to do here. Kirk Cousins has played in West Coast systems his entire life. He's made a living overthrowing the ball over the middle of the field. What does Arthur Smith like to do? He likes his quarterbacks to throw over the middle of the field like Ryan Tannehill did back in Tennessee when Arthur had his best run as an offensive coordinator. And Kirk technically fits that style of offense because he's played in that style of offense so many times throughout his career, pretty much his entire career, actually. And, I really don't think it would work because of the arm strength issues in this division in particular, but you can see why these odd makers are giving Kirk Cousins a pretty decent chance of being the next starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that scares the absolute shit out of me. Then you get into the list, you get into the 6 quarterbacks here. I would take all 6 of these quarterbacks ahead of Kirk Cousins. Yes, Justin Fields, and you guys know I'm not the highest on Justin Fields. You guys know I have my concerns about Justin. I would rather take him over Kirk Cousins because with Kirk, I have a 0% chance in my mind of winning a Super Bowl next year. At least with Justin Fields, he has the upside to potentially get to where he could be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. And I would rather go into next year with the excitement of Justin Fields and seeing if he could become something really, really nice as opposed to having Kirk Cousins where I think that his career is over. And I think that the Steelers season would be over before it even started if they went out and got Kirk Cousins in NFL free agency this year. So please, Arthur Smith, Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, I beg of you guys saw my list of 6 quarterbacks. You get any of those 6, I'll be good as long as it's not Kirk Cousins. So let me know down there in the comments section, which of these 4 quarterbacks would be the biggest disaster for the Pittsburgh Steelers at quarterback next year. Type KC for Kirk Cousins, AR for Aaron Rodgers, and I know how much of you guys hate Aaron Rodgers. Type JF for Justin Fields, and I know how much a lot of you guys hate Russell Wilson as well. Type RW if you think Russ would be the biggest disaster here in Pittsburgh. Now, before I go here, one more story I want to discuss because I thought it was a very interesting idea that Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network had about the Steelers and specifically how they approach their training camp practices, all right? So Jeremiah went on a podcast and he suggested that the Pittsburgh Steelers should not be as rough as they are and as intense as they are in Latrobe for their training camp practices. This is what Jeremiah had to say. They looked like a dead-legged team. They looked tired and exhausted towards the end of last season, which to me is reason to at least consider studying practices in terms of how aggressive you want to go in training camp. I love going to Steelers camp because it's like an old school camp. I mean, they are hitting their own pads and they come out the gates hot because they're so weathered and worn with how they approach it. But this is a lot of evidence now of them faltering and falling apart late in the season. So maybe there's something they need to look into from a standpoint of trying to maintain their legs a little bit because they just look tired and slow. And, I think when you look at the, kind of the trend of the Steelers, collapsing late in seasons, the Mike Tomlin late season collapse is something that has become a phenomenon here in Pittsburgh. I think it's more than fair to criticize Tomlin's kind of old school approach of, really tiring these guys out in training camp. And, I think that the benefit of that is that these guys are more ready for the physicality of NFL football right out of the gate. We saw that last year, by the way, with the fast start the Steelers defense in particular had to last season. That defense was elite to start the season because these teams were not ready for that level of physicality, and the Steelers were playing at that level of physicality all training camp long. But as Jeremiah points out, they looked like a tired football team, and especially on defense towards the end of the season, because the defense was on the field for so long during the season. I mean, like the offense was like never on the field because they just weren't successful, and the defense always had to stay on the field, and they had to eat the time of possession. But also because they put in so much work during training camp, hitting other guys, the physicality of it all, you can make an argument that these guys just run out of gas to finish seasons, which is why the Steelers have not been able to get over this hump of winning a playoff game, even during like the Killer B era, because all these guys are so tired and their opponents are fresher going into the postseason. But I kind of doubt that Mike Tomlin at this point in his NFL coaching career, this is what he's always done. It is his bread and butter. It is his style. I really, really doubt he's going to change the way that he approaches Latrobe and training camp as long as he's the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Should the Steelers go easier in training camp? Maybe they'd be a little bit less prepared to start seasons, but maybe they'd be a little bit fresher to finish seasons. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. I thought it was an interesting idea. Want to hear your guys' thoughts. Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already for extensive Steelers offseason coverage all throughout the 2025 offseason.